Hey, Tony here with ExecuNet, and I'm speaking today with Stephen Kidd. Hey, Stephen, how you doing?
Good, Tony. How you doing?
Awesome, thanks. And he's the co-founder of Tastemade. Tell us what Tastemade's all about.
Sure. So Tastemade is a global food and travel network. We produce amazing high-quality programming, video programming, but we do it for millennial audiences and we do it for mobile and digital platforms. So it's kind of like a modern-day version of the Food Network or the Travel Channel, but done specifically for this new age of mobile.
Now, a lot of business leaders listening to us today are wondering, how did you actually start? I'm not even going to say a movement. This is rapture, right? We're talking about food. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
How do you mobilize people around food and spread this wonderful idea?
So it's a great question. When we started the company, we saw this very unique opportunity in that, there's a global fascination with food and with travel, right? These are things that really are universal languages. They connect us all. But if you looked at the television side of the business, it was primarily still focused on a traditional type of television show that maybe wasn't as relevant to younger audiences. And so we said, well, if we could focus on the millennial generation, the 18 to 34 group, who, by the way, spend all of their time on mobile phones. And so we said, well, what if we create a modern-day version of a media company that told these amazing stories about food and travel, but did it optimized for mobile phones, which is where everyone's spending their time. And as we got into it, we saw that no one was doing it, and that the opportunity was really global. So the US is our biggest market, but right behind that it's Japan, Brazil, the UK, Australia. And so what we found was there's this global fascination with food. There's all of these talented tastemakers, that's what we call our talent, in multiple countries all around the world. And we said, well, if we harnessed all of that creativity and distributed some of that content on global platforms like Facebook and YouTube and Snapchat, it could be a really interesting opportunity. And I'm happy to say 3 years in, it's not an interesting opportunity, it's becoming a really big business.
Yeah, tastemakers, I love that. So these are your best storytellers as well, the people who spread the word. What else makes up sort of the DNA of your best, I don't want to say customer, these are members of something?
Yeah, so we specifically don't call them talent, because talent feels like an antiquated thing where a studio would lock someone up for a 10-year deal and you wouldn't be able to work with anyone else. We really believe that the talent today should be treated as such, and we call them tastemakers. One of the ways that we kind of work with them is we say, hey, what's really interesting to you? What are the trends that you're seeing? Because look, we're based in Los Angeles, California, and we weren't arrogant enough to think that we had all the best ideas, right? There's so much creativity around the world today, and if we could find a way to kind of, in many ways, learn from other people's taste, that would be a much richer experience. Because if you just say, these 10 people around a table in LA are the tastemakers and they are the arbiter of taste, I think there's some value in that, but we made a different choice because we believe that if we could find all of these interesting people around the world who had taste and provided a platform for them to share that taste, that could be a much richer opportunity.
What have you learned about your tastemakers and others who are part of this global community? Specifically, have you learned that they're using Tastemade in ways you never imagined?
Well, God, there's so many great learnings. The first thing I would tell you is we underestimated how powerful the combination of food and travel are. So no matter where we go in the world, people always say, oh, yeah, food and travel, they are inextricably linked. Because when I go on vacation, I'm planning out all the restaurants that I'm going to eat, or when I'm deciding where I'm going to go on vacation, I'm going to go somewhere that has really good food. So they seem to be really combined. And that was kind of I think we knew it conceptually, but we're hearing it more and more that those are very key decision points in how people plan their trips and what they're going to do. The second thing that we learned was how unbelievably focused mobile was for consumers. To give you an idea, so 70% of all of our viewership happens on mobile phones.
Wow.
70%, and it's growing.
That's awesome.
And so what's unique about that is we want to be storytellers, right, and story makers. And to do that, you need to not think, oh, what I'm going to shoot is something with everyone sitting in their living room watching it on a flat screen TV. That is not our core consumer. Our core consumer is someone who's on the train, on the bus, standing in line, maybe in class, and sneaking a few minutes of stuff on their phone. And I think that kind of mobile-centric world has led us to some very interesting discoveries and has led us to new and better storytelling that we think you can find on traditional television.
Sure. So let's pretend I'm the CEO of a company and I'm dying to break through in the mobile generation. What have you learned that you can impart that probably transcends industries and cultures?
Yeah, so I'll go back to mobile again.
Okay.
One of the things that we found is on mobile devices, you can't really put like big banner ads and things like that, but advertising is the core engine that drives the media business, right? If you amass an audience and you can put a brand's message in front of that engaged audience, that helps the brand grow and hopefully generates more sales. What we believed was the old model of interrupting people was not going to be successful for us. And so instead what we've done is work directly with brands, and many of them from American Express to Hyundai to Anheuser-Busch, many big global brands, and we've said to them, if you want to really reach younger audiences, you can't do it the old way. And so in many cases what we do is they sponsor shows that we create, and we weave in the brand themes. So we had one show, for example, called The Grill Iron that was sponsored by Hyundai, and the star of the show went to different college campuses all around the country in a Hyundai to actually tell stories about local football teams and local chefs and how the culture of that particular location came through not only in the football but in the food that people ate while tailgating outside.
Wow.
And that was a great way for Hyundai to reach an audience, and we actually partnered with Nielsen to do a study, and Nielsen, who's the ratings agency, basically tested that type of content against traditional television ads and pre-roll, and what they found was on a whole variety of metrics: purchase intent, brand affinity, brand lift, our kind of native advertising, where the brand is woven into the content, scored off the charts compared to traditional models. So how that applies to a CEO or a CMO, if you want to reach these younger audiences, you need to do things very differently than you've done in the past, because they are completely mobile focused, and they don't hate brands, but they hate advertising that interrupts them. And so whatever you're trying to sell, or your service or a product, I would encourage you to think about that consumer behavior, because it is wildly different than it was just 5 or 10 years ago.
Good advice. So let's now pretend I'm a young entrepreneur.
Yes.
And I've invented an alpaca wool blankie with no sleeves.
Yes.
And I've been at this for a while, and I'm struggling. What advice do you have for me?
Well, first off, my son's obsessed with alpacas, so I like this one. Look, every entrepreneur's journey is a different one, and it's a deeply personal one. I'll just say from my perspective, I'm fortunate that my co-founders, Joe Perez and Larry Fitzgibbon, I've been working with them for almost 10 years now. And we've had many ups and downs at different companies, but we've stayed together as a team. So I would say that first and foremost, surround yourself with a team who makes you better collectively than you are individually. Because an entrepreneur's journey is a very long one, and it has highs and lows, and it's always good to have a partner in crime with you to kind of pick you up on bad days and maybe get you in check when you think you're going to take over the universe,
Sure.
but you really haven't figured out the model yet. So I would say, find yourself great co-founders and partners, and then get ready to work very, very hard. It is the entrepreneurial life is not an easy one, but for my partners and I, it's the one that we love, and it's very rich and fulfilling. But it is not meant for the faint of heart.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned ups and downs, so I'm going to ask you, what are you hungry for at Tastemade? Pun intended, of course. In other words, where's the next wave? And my definition of a wave is something that feels just a little too big to handle.
Mm-hmm.
The board is going just a little too fast, and the ride could end at any moment. What's on the horizon for you guys?
Oh my. Well, look, things are changing so rapidly. So I'll give you an example. 2 months ago, we were chosen to be one of 15 channels on Snapchat. And for any of your listeners and viewers who don't know Snapchat, it is the fastest growing thing for millennials. It is a mobile messaging service where people connect with one another. But there's also a media component to it where people can consume content. Overnight, we were reaching millions of new consumers after launching. And those consumers were really, really engaged. And so for us, because it is a mobile phone only experience, all of the video that we needed to shoot was not shot landscape, but instead shot vertically.
Wow.
Because then it fills up the entire screen of the mobile phone. And so that is an enormous change, because the entire media business historically has been, let's shoot horizontally, landscape. And so we had to hack everything. How you shoot it, how you edit it, and so that's been just a phenomenal kind of learning experience, and we've only been on the platform for 10 weeks now.
Wow.
So if you had asked me that question 10 weeks ago, I would have given you a different answer.
You're still on the wave, so.
But it's true. But everything is moving so rapidly now that you just have to be ready to set aside maybe preconceived notions that you have and look at the data and look at how consumers are using your products and adjust accordingly.
Very cool. Stephen, thank you.
All right, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.